This summer, I was able to dig up some pretty unique finds. Some were better than others, so today I am ranking 5 of my summer reads from somewhat of a letdown all the way up to my favorite summer nightmare. Leading into the summer, I prepared by doing a lot of book shopping, but honestly, that's no different than any other time of the year. What was different is I was able to find some titles that I was really anticipating and was so glad that I found them and found them in the condition that I did. However, not all of them were as great as I anticipated. I think I got my hopes up a little bit. So let's get started with the rankings. First up, we have The Living Dead by Jeffrey Godden, published in 1987 by Leisure Books. I won't get into too much detail with reviewing this one. I think this is now probably the 3rd time on my channel I have mentioned this book, and I do have a full review posted on my channel, which I will link above for you guys. But basically, a very short synopsis is this story is set in New Orleans and southern Louisiana, and it is a zombie novel, but the zombies have been revived as a result of some ancient voodoo magic that a modern practitioner has brought back. In many ways, this was the perfect combination of atmospheric horror and action that I haven't really seen done very successfully in the past. But about halfway through, it quickly devolved into this detective cop story and trying to track down this modern voodoo practitioner who's responsible for all these zombies killing people. And it kind of ruined it for me, so I only gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. Next up at number 4, I read The Pack by David Fisher, and this was originally published in 1976. I've been wanting to get my own copy of The Pack for a while. It is extremely hard to find, and when it does occasionally pop up on the various online retailers, it is pretty expensive and the copy is not always in the best shape. So this one that I read was actually the Valancourt Press reprint that I was lucky enough to find in my local public library. This story starts by introducing this problem on this vacation island where summer tourists come, and I guess they have these dogs. It's common for them to have a pet that's just for the summer. And so when their summer holiday on this island is done, people have gotten in the habit of just abandoning their dogs. I know the 1970s was a different time, but I really can't fathom someone actually doing this. But that is kind of the foundation of this story. So once the winter comes and all these tourists are gone and they've left their dogs behind, we are left with this pack of dogs that after some time away from the comforts of their domestic life, they have reverted into their wild instincts for survival. After the author has kind of set the stage with this heartbreaking scenario, we transition to the main plot, which follows a family who owns a house on this island. They are visiting it in the off season in the winter, and they become trapped by this pack of dogs that are starving and essentially hunting them and have cornered them in their own home. I've said before, you will always remember a book that makes you feel something, and The Pack left its emotional mark on me for sure. While it's filled with action, lots of gore, which I absolutely loved, I left that reading experience feeling completely heartbroken because of the dogs that are abandoned for the winter. This is a horror novel, and as I said, there is lots of it, but the part of the story that I remember the most is actually part of the beginning when the author is setting the stage of this strange scenario of dogs being left behind. We get a portion of the story that's told from the point of view of this dog, starting with him with his family, playing with the kids, and then, again, this is from his point of view, the dad of the family taking him out into the woods and abandoning him. We get to kind of experience with the dog, the confusion that the dog's feeling at the time. And then we follow him as winter approaches and he's starving. And we are actually with him when it comes to his ultimate demise in the forest, and it's completely heartbreaking. My one complaint about this novel is the dogs are a little too smart. We all know dogs are smart and it's amazing what they can accomplish, but these dogs were almost a little too human in their decision making and their cognitive abilities. Made it a little bit unrealistic for me, but it didn't take away from the horror of the story and this family being tracked down and murdered by this pack of dogs. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. At number 3 for the summer, we have Deadly Vengeance by Stephen George. This was my first read by Stephen George. I have a few others from him in my collection. This was actually the first one I read. It was a recent purchase and I immediately dove into it because I thought the premise sounded pretty unique. And after reading this, I will definitely be picking up my other titles by Stephen George. This story follows a little boy named Alan, whose father gives him an adopted dog named Cobalt to kind of help him grieve with the loss of his brother Will, I think about a year prior to when the story is taking place. At first, Alan doesn't really want the dog. He is straight up mean to the dog, tells it to stay away. But over time, Alan and Cobalt form this unnatural bond, and Cobalt becomes Alan's protector against this group of bullies that Alan has consistently had problems with. Alan having problems with bullies is a very surface level way to put it. It's so hard to not spoil parts of this at this time, but I'll just leave it there for now. Let's just say Alan has some trouble with bullies and Cobalt helps protect him. The synopsis on the back cover kind of leads you to believe that this dog Cobalt is possessed by Alan's dead brother Will, and I went into this story expecting that, but was completely surprised with the turn that this takes towards the end. Again, I won't spoil it, but let's just say it takes a little bit of a sci-fi turn towards the end. Another surprise with this one is how emotional it is. I thought I was getting somewhat of a straightforward dog horror novel, maybe in lines of The Pack, which I just discussed. But this actually deals with heavy themes of grief and loneliness, and we get kind of an inside look on how Alan is dealing with a very tragic loss in his life. Deadly Vengeance is a pretty unique premise, and again, this was my first experience with Stephen George. I couldn't get enough of his writing. I could not put this one down. 4 out of 5 stars for sure. Next, at number 2, we have Bats by William Johnstone, published in 1993 by Zebra. Now, Johnstone is another one, like Stephen George, where I have a lot of William Johnstone in my collection, but this was actually my first time reading anything by William Johnstone, and I was not disappointed. The premise of Bats is pretty simple, kind of your straightforward creature feature. There's this mutant breed of bats that have been let loose on northern Louisiana, and they commence on their murderous rampage. Our main character, Johnny, is ex-military with all of these ultra-high security clearances. He lives on this protected gated compound that he built in the rural area of this northern Louisiana town. And his character is what made it very obvious to me that William Johnstone was very prolific with his westerns, because Johnny is that type of character where he knows everything. Every decision he makes is the right one. He never struggles with making those decisions, and everyone, including people of authority, look to him to come up with the plan of action, and they blindly follow it. But it's okay because it's always the correct answer. Basically, Johnny felt like, to me at least, a cowboy outlaw who had been kind of exiled into this horror novel, but I liked him. He worked well. He was just a little bit one-dimensional. So Johnny teams up with local law enforcement and all of the military personnel who show up in the town and all of the bat experts. And again, they work together to figure out how to overcome these bats that are slowly but surely murdering people all across northern Louisiana. But again, Johnny has all the answers. All of these experts and ultra-educated people look to him to tell them what to do. Bats is a fun, quick read. I knew I was getting sort of a quick and dirty creature feature with this one. I knew I wasn't getting a literary masterpiece, but I did not expect it to be this fun. I breezed right through it. Take this novel for what it is. Don't go in with really high expectations, and you will enjoy it just as much as I did. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And the winner for the summer, my favorite read over the last few months, was one I was excited to get to, and that is The Keeper by Robert Arthur Smith. This was published in 1986 by Fawcett Gold Medal. This story follows a serial killer named Greg. He is a taxidermist, but he is tortured by this inner voice called the Keeper, which encourages him to go out, find women, bring them back to his lair, murder them, and then he skins them, preserves them, kind of like he does for his taxidermy job, and has kind of a museum set up in his dungeon-like basement where he has preserved them, skinned them, and attach their skin to various mannequins. Greg has become obsessed with our other character in this novel named Cindy, who is a local artist who has problems of her own. She's in the process of leaving her alcoholic, abusive husband and falling in love with her and her husband's mutual friend. Now, the Keeper, Greg's inner voice, is pushing Greg to capture Cindy. All of these other women he's killing are not good enough. He needs to get Cindy. Cindy will be the ultimate shrine in his museum of murder. This story alternates between the 2 points of view. We go from Greg, our taxidermist serial killer, and we alternate to Cindy, the artist who is being pursued by Greg. I found Cindy's story a little bland. She is the poster child of low self-esteem, and that seems to be her only character trait. Again, she's leaving an abusive marriage with the help of a mutual friend, and suddenly she realizes she's always loved this mutual friend, and she's falling into the arms of him to provide comfort throughout at the beginning of this tumultuous divorce. I found her story a bit boring. I definitely preferred Greg's point of view. The best part of this alternating point of view is the unique perspective that we have as the reader. We obviously know that Greg is stalking and pursuing Cindy because of the parts from his point of view, but then when we transition to Cindy's point of view, she has no idea what's going on, but we read that she always feels like someone's watching her. She'll turn around and there's always just a man, the same man is kind of in her vicinity, turning a corner that she just came around. She always sees the same car again in her vicinity. She kind of feels like she's being followed, and it made it really exciting for us as the reader to see her unease and feeling like she's being stalked, and us actually knowing that she is, and it kind of builds that tension as we lead towards what actually happens to Cindy. The Keeper is right up my alley because it's more realistic horror, and the author does an excellent job building tension, especially, again, that alternating point of view. Greg is stalking Cindy, and for so much of this story, he's so close to her. He knows exactly where she is. He's right down the street from her, and we don't know when he's going to make his move and try to capture her. And it just builds that tension throughout the whole novel. And then what actually happens at the end is one of the most heart-pounding scenes I've ever read. I gave The Keeper 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star read for me because there wasn't that emotional element. I didn't leave this reading experience emotionally impacted in any way. A year from now, I'll probably even forget that I read this, but it was fun, and the tension was unimaginable with this one. And that's it for summer 2025. Those are the vintage horror reads that I was able to get to over the last couple months. Let me know in the comments what you read this summer, especially if it was vintage horror related, what your favorite book was. Also, let me know if you've read any of the ones that I featured today and if you had any conflicting opinions about them. I love to hear the alternative viewpoints. As we transition to a new time of year, I'm definitely getting excited for the Halloween spooky season. Let me know in the comments if you want to see the titles that I have picked out for my Halloween reads. And until next time, have a good one.